We've learned something about the diversity of Judaism in the first century CE. This should help us to think about how the communities to which Paul writes are part of a broader range of Jewish identity, that is, in part of Gentiles who are interested in Judaism and diaspora Jews who are interested in being in Christ. On the way, we've reminded ourselves that the historical texts we read are never objective. Historiography in antiquity and today emerges from the writer's location and commitments and interests, even if we can do a better or worse job writing it. Polybius, you remember, offered a story of the succession of empires. He does so from his role as a high-status Greek captive under Rome, one who was educating members within Roman households, traveling with the conqueror Scipio, and chronicling Rome's expansion. The book of Daniel, you remember, offered a story of the succession of empires set in the time of the Babylonian captivity, even as it was thinking through a new era of oppression, that of the Seleucid ruler Antiochus IV. Josephus writes not as an objective historian of the Jewish war, of course, but as someone in the pay of the Roman imperial household, in the pay of the Roman imperial family, the Flavians, that had burned the temple. He's someone who translates Jewish diversity, Jewish philosophies, as he puts it, to a non-Jewish audience. And now we turn to think about how key terminology of the letters of Paul emerges in and from a wider political and religious context. Salvation, gospel, the celebration of a birth. It sounds like a Christmas song, a song to celebrate the coming of Jesus. But these are terms that we find in an inscription from Asia Minor, dating to 9 CE, before stories of Jesus' birth circulated. So what is a Praene inscription? You've read the inscription on the page or on the computer screen, but it's important to understand its context, or how it was published, we could say. Picture 2 blocks, one about knee-high, the other about waist-high, one of blue limestone, one of white marble. The inscription was found carved on these rocks in a city in modern-day Turkey, Praene, in the north stoa or hall of the city, also called the Sacred Stoa. At the east end of this stoa were 2 centers for governmental gatherings, called the Boulaterion and the Prytaneon. The stoa is in a fair degree of ruin now, but you can see that the Boulaterion would have seated civic leaders, and that at its center is an altar. Politics and religion were inextricable in the period we're studying. The room nearby where the inscription was found was probably used for the cult of Roma, the goddess Rome personified, as we can see her here on a coin, and eventually also the cult of Augustus. In Praene, Roma and Augustus were also likely associated or worshipped or honored at the temple of Athena Polias, the key temple and cult of the city. In the city, we find another structure dedicated to Roma and Augustus in the upper gymnasium. What's the importance of this? Praene is an ancient city steeped in Greek culture with a long history, but in it we find evidence of the honoring of Rome, of Roma and Augustus in at least 3 locations. Rome, far to the west, was being recognized, acknowledged, even honored in this city with the agreement of local Greek elites. The inscription found at Praene consists of 2 parts. I have to admit it's pretty dry in the way that many governmental notices are. Bureaucracy is dull, whether it's in the 1st century CE or the 21st century. The first part contains a letter of the proconsul Paulus Fabius Maximus. It's a proposal that a new calendar be established for the province of Asia. A proconsul is someone who had been in the role of a consul, a powerful position in the Roman Empire, which often led to other powerful administrative posts, such as this one. He was a kind of governor of the province of Asia. The second part of the inscription is where the Kinon, the League of Cities of Asia, responds, and they respond very positively to the proconsul's suggestion.